Welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel, where we're talking about Cristiano Ronaldo and his latest move to Saudi Arabia, Al-Nassr to be more exact. Of course, there is a lot that came before that, and I think we should preface this conversation by saying Ronaldo's had probably one of the most incredibly difficult years of his life in terms of off-the-field stuff as well. And so when we're talking about Ronaldo, I'd just like to start the video by saying, whilst we're evaluating what is a footballing asset, there is a human who is that footballing asset as well. And those two things very often sort of get interchanged when talking about, transfers and business and all these kind of things. But at the core of it, what we're really talking about is a person who has been through something incredibly difficult over the last year, and losing someone who was close to you, or someone who you feel you would have been close with, or you would have formed a close relationship with, even before you've even had really a chance to set eyes on them and form that kind of one-on-one relationship, must be incredibly difficult. So with that said, Ronaldo has made a move which I think has confused a couple of people. And when I say a couple, I mean a lot. Because Ronaldo was always seen as one of the most elite players. He played for the Yankees of football in almost every country that he went to. Juve, Manchester United, Real Madrid. And he may be doing the same if he goes to Saudi Arabia, but it's not quite seen or framed in the same way, right? And in fact, Ronaldo himself, and do we hold one of the greatest footballers to his own words, actually said he wouldn't want to finish his career there. Now, that to me might be an indication that maybe Ronaldo won't finish his career in Saudi Arabia. There might be another twist in the tale. But part of the reason that he's been forced out towards there is because of A, his poor relationship with Manchester United, and not only, the degradation of that, because that degraded so quick, but also because the football that I think Ronaldo plays at this point is seen as counterintuitive to the team game, but also the overall team ethos that a lot of people are trying to build. So it's not exactly the trendy style of football that is currently going around. I also just think people know that what comes with Ronaldo, whilst there might be a huge amount of money and a huge amount of eyes, is not necessarily what you would necessarily want to attribute to your team, right? Do you want to pair your brand with the elite level football player that is Cristiano Ronaldo? Now, a lot of the United and Ronaldo stands out there are probably saying, yes, of course I do. He's the greatest player to us of all time. And I understand that. I think a lot of this is down to perspective, right? And even then, it's probably down to just what you appreciate about the game. But within that, I think it's all well and good us making these arguments. A couple of years ago, when Ronaldo was Messi's age, he was having a plus 30 goal season at Juve. We can make arguments about him being one of the greatest players of all time, but this isn't that. This is actually about mapping a career of a player, holding him to what even he says, through possibly his own confidence, but also to an extent his own arrogance. And again, we have to be kind to him here. It's probably down to his confidence, but there is a level of arrogance with any elite level player, and there's a reason for that. That partly is what got them to that position. And then it's the lack of acceptance of the actual situation, right? And a lack of possibly responsibility. The most recent and most flagrant, flaunting, but also insightful interview that we got was Piers Morgan and Ronaldo. Piers Morgan clearly appealed to the ego of Cristiano Ronaldo and went, you know what? This is just setting the record straight. I'm not even going to bother to challenge you on any of these things. So Ronaldo was just allowed to sit, speak his mind, which is obviously good. A good journalist. I think it was Barbara Walters who passed away. She was very good at this. Just allowed Ronaldo to sort of say things. He was almost feeding the rope with which he would sort of hang himself. And there was a sycophantic nature to the whole thing. It was like, yeah, you are too good for all this, aren't you? You are sort of great, aren't you, Ronaldo? Yeah, like you're better than all those haters, and as he called them, rats. And I think we got an insight into how difficult and how perspective shifting or warping it can be to be at Cristiano Ronaldo's level. We all knew that a lot of what was said in Ronaldo's interview wasn't necessarily realistic, but we also knew that some of these things that Ronaldo was saying would very often be motivational tools, or tools with which he could cope with the reality that had happened around him. But part of the Ronaldo reality that he had constructed, a huge part of it was his doing. He went back to Manchester United without doing the research around the team. He was also probably forced to go back to Manchester United because a lot of teams who were offering him things probably weren't making him the offers that he wanted. And so Ronaldo had kind of backed himself into a corner on a lot of fronts here. And I guess when you've got a team of people around you, when you have researchers, when you have advisors, when you have all these things, you don't expect that someone's going to make a huge misstep like that. But I guess it was kind of inevitable in a way at some point that someone so huge and monumental and basically a walking company, companies are people, aren't they? A walking company would at some point misstep in a corporate manner. It's just that we never expected it to be so public. We never expected it to be so in your face. And I think a lot of people in football saw that as a bit of a, whoa, hands off here. If we get this guy, are we going to be the next people who are going to be thrown under the bus by Cristiano Ronaldo? Is he going to bring our club into disrepute? And is it worth the footballing sacrifice, wage sacrifice, and squad sacrifice in order to bring him in? Now, again, I can hear some people would say, yes, he gets you goals. But what do you sacrifice in order to get that? What did Manchester United sacrifice in their time to get Cristiano Ronaldo? There is no question whether Ronaldo is one of the greatest players of all time. There is no question about his insane footballing technique, qualities, and ability. But it's quite clear at this point that there has been something that has gone wrong. And his move to Saudi Arabia is one of those things, and it's probably the biggest clue in the whole thing. If you can't get a deal in Europe, you go somewhere else. And there was no way that Ronaldo wasn't going to be playing football. My question is, does he stay there? How long does he stay there? And I think in my mind, the answer is he stays there until the football off season in 2023. So we're talking like early June, if the Champions League final happens then, until August. He's got that time to move until that transfer window ends, essentially. He's got that time to move back to Europe. Surely there is something, someone, somewhere who can tempt him back to Europe. Now, it might be a top side that have an emergency and need it, right? I get it. That's probably a great deal at that point for Ronaldo. It probably won't be one of your top tier teams. It won't be someone in the Premier League. I don't think it'll be a Man City or someone like that, because I think they're now realizing that what Ronaldo wants is not what Man City offer. Man City were probably going to offer him big wages, semi-regular playing time, an incredible experience within an incredible squad, and a chance at Champions League football, a chance to play alongside some of the best players of all time that are going to make him look great. And weirdly, the system probably actually would have benefited Cristiano Ronaldo, because we've seen how they've forced the goals down Haaland's neck. And that's a great thing. Like, I'm not saying that's a problem. They've made footballing positions that make easy, simple to finish goals that Ronaldo probably could have done himself. Now, that's not to say they shouldn't have moved down the Haaland route, but you get my point. He probably won't go back to Real Madrid. There's no point in Real Madrid disrupting things. He probably won't go to Barcelona. They don't have the finances. He probably won't go to PSG because Mbappe is there and realizes the heat with which Ronaldo is currently operating. Bayern, no. Juve, probably not, because they don't have the cash. So that's the elite level of teams out of the way. Then you're not going to get to the next level of technical academy ability kind of teams. Your Ajaxes, probably even your Liverpools and your Chelseas and all those sort of teams where it's technically we can win things and we can put all these pieces together and get up to that country level tier. So Ronaldo is then very low on options. And then it becomes sentimental level stuff where it's like, okay, well, would you go to a mid-level Spanish side? Well, probably not. They won't have the money. Would you go to Napoli? No. Would you go to Sporting Lisbon is probably the final answer, right? And Sporting, with the side where he started his career, obviously, they're also a great side in the first place. They've got Champions League football. They've got a lot of things to offer him. They probably don't have the money, but they do have a footballing story where he can finish off his career in some form of romantic, rose-tinted, Ronaldo-coloured glasses. I wouldn't mind that. And weirdly, I don't even hate Cristiano Ronaldo for what he's doing. I don't think that what Ronaldo is doing at this point is actually all that crazy. You know, there was this clip that I saw the other day where a guy says, hey, get your money, man. I'm like, yeah, this guy's already got so much money. Sure, add to it. But there's probably a legacy, and I think this is something that a lot of people maybe don't understand, or maybe aren't factoring in. They probably understand perfectly what legacy is, but they aren't factoring it in. Ronaldo was obsessed with being remembered in this way. And I just find it so weirdly destructive that suddenly all this is happening. It's like, it's such a strange play to A, go to Saudi Arabia when you said you wouldn't, To B, do a Piers Morgan interview and say, I love the fans, but I'm acting in this way. I love the club, but I'm acting in this way. It's basically him versus some billionaires. Well, okay, if that's the case, then say that in the interview and be as explicit as possible about it. Piers Morgan didn't really give him the platform to do that, I'll be honest. I didn't think he particularly asked insightful or, sort of piercing questions that were going to get the best out of Ronaldo. But also allow yourself to be publicly challenged. Allow someone to say to you, did you do this? Was this the case? But he didn't, and he wasn't really seen to be put to any kind of test. So I'm curious at this point what Ronaldo's next step is. I still think he makes his way back to Europe. I don't think it's probably one of the top 6-7 leagues probably in Europe. I don't see him going to a Galatasaray or someone like that. I think that's too out of the media focus and the money wouldn't balance out. And at this point, I've got to admit, I think after a World Cup where Messi is doing, greatest of all time kind of actions, doesn't mean he's always doing greatest of all time kind of numbers, but he's getting that moment. If you're Ronaldo, it does look a little bit like you've given up here. But I don't know. I feel sorry for him, if I'm honest at this point. I feel like a sense of empathy about the decline that he's going through. And it is a decline. I just really struggle to understand why and how it got to this point of decline. Was this a financial thing? And I'm not even talking about on his part. Was it that he financially couldn't find people that would match his wage expectations? He financially was screwed over by a Juve or a Manchester United or someone? Is this a decision actually based? It's clearly not a decision based on football. So it is based on something else. But is this the best that Ronaldo could get, is my real question. And my answer immediately off the top of my head is no. I think Ronaldo could have gotten something better somewhere else. But I think there have been a lot of bridges burned, an image ruined, and a player who once used to play for the Yankees is now scrambling around in an alternate league trying to find his final hit. And I get it, like maybe padding some sort of stats book with some sort of goals. That's not it though, because the stats pads that he actually wants to have is in the Champions League. The stats pad that he actually wants to do is in the whatever league it is, the Premier League or, wherever league he needs to add some goals to his final tally. So all this is very confusing. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on Cristiano Ronaldo's latest move and what you think his next move is, whether you think he does come back to Europe, but also what the logic is behind where he is going right now and whether there is actually logic backing this up. I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love.